Hello. So, I was going to talk about my childhood a little bit and how I grew up as a child. So, I had girlfriends and um, I played a lot with dolls and um, indoors, and with the girls we danced and did all that stuff. But then I also grew up with boys. So, I don't know if I have mentioned this um, on my YouTube channel. But yes, so I have boy friends. So that is really nostalgic for me. And I get this when I'm with boys or even men, but mostly like maybe boys. I get this nostalgia for my boyfriends. So I was a little bit tomboy because you can't play with the dolls with the boys. Like, you have to play the boy stuff with the boys. Like, that's how it was with me and my boys, at least. So, and I was one of the boys. Like, one of them said, like, come on, boys, let's go. And his brother was like, what if we would say, come on, girls, let's go? Like, like, how would that feel for you? But like, it didn't really matter much for me. Like, it was okay, but just a funny thing. But yeah, so we played a lot outside, outdoors, like that type of stuff, like adventures, and we bicycled and did all of this boy stuff. And so I just have noticed that it's hard maybe for me to sometimes be attractive to boys, like, or men. I'm 31 years old, so turning 32 in September. So it might be hard for me sometimes to be the attractive girl, like, that attracts men or males, like, because I was so used to being friends with them. So if you catch what I'm saying, like, I don't know if it's that erotic that I start thinking of all those playful memories with boys. Like, I don't know if men really appreciate that. So, having high heels and skirts and dresses, and you can't play in the forest with a dress, and you get dirty. And so with the boys, also at the New Year's Eve, also I had a brother, and one of my boyfriends had a brother too as well, and then they had their friends as well, so there was a lot of boys. So at New Year's Eve, with the, what do you call it, rockets, in English. So those things that you shoot in the air. So yes, so it was crazy. Like, like, I was afraid of sometimes being with them because they just shoot them like anywhere. Like, it was like, felt like a war zone. And of course they had to also destroy toys, and it was all this stuff. So one of these boys were more wild, and he was a Gemini, so he was playing with the fire and stuff like that. But I was a girl, so I was still the sensitive Julia. And I remember I sometimes got upset, and then I did a scene of it, or I kind of like reacted. I felt ignored by them, and it was like when we were children still, it was okay, but when they got older, they wanted to go from playing football, or like, it wasn't really football, it was some other ball games. But they went from that to bicycles, and then they kind of like also had their friends, my boyfriends. Like it sounds like I say boyfriend, but I mean boy friends. So one of my boyfriends, so one of them had his friend coming over, and then they were like playing with the bicycles, and I felt ignored by them, and then I got upset, and that was one example of how it went. And then I just felt ignored because I wasn't bicycling with them. And I remember I filmed them a lot, and one of these friends didn't really like it, like, like, why are you filming us so much? So I have had to have something to do, like, I was bored, so I filmed. But yeah, they didn't really appreciate that always, like, me filming. They thought it was annoying. But I remember when we played inside with we built stuff, like, and we played with toys, and I would build, and I would be like I designed like how the buildings were like, and then the toys would live there. But then one of these boys would like destroy it and be like, enemy attacking, and like that type of stuff was a little bit annoying. But yeah, and then we would play on PlayStation, and of course video games, like that was a lot, like PlayStation and computer games. And I remember we played one computer game, and it was like shooting, but it was like with maggots. So I think it was like some type of like maggots. So one of my friends' mother was like maybe Julia doesn't want to play that. Maybe she wants to play with the dolls. But I like that game. So yeah. Growing up with boys has made me a lot my identity. Like, I also grew up with girls and played with the dolls a lot, but obviously not with the boys. But yes, it made my identity a lot. Like, I'm really chill with boys. But yes, it's that nostalgia. Like, I get nostalgic. But I have to learn how to be also a woman, to men, and be like attractive to the other gender, like, not just friendly with them. And I kind of like, you go with what you are used to. So I fall into that. I fall into that category that that I'm a friend, with males, like, so it's hard for me to be the one with the skirt and high heels and makeup on and hair done. And it's it's easier for me to be the friend and be friendly and be having fun, with them. So I'm a half tomboy. I'm not really a whole tomboy. I'm not that cool. Like, I don't do boy stuff anymore alone. I think when you're a tomboy, you have to do boy stuff alone as well. So I didn't do that. I was pretty I have been pretty feminine as well. So, but half tomboy because I'm used to doing the boy stuff. And yes, then the motorcycles came. When they came to that age, then I got a little bit, I became a little bit an outsider. Like, I didn't really have much in common with them anymore when they came to their teens, like, teenager years. So yeah. We grew apart, but I still like them, and it's cool. But yeah, just some examples of how my childhood was like with the boys. And in general. So that's one fact about me. Like I grew up with boys. So that was a lot of boys. mm, I have to go and whiten my teeth. Like seriously, they are so yellow. But like yeah, nothing else to say. I'm gonna put this to my computer and got a new video again. So yeah. Have you grown up with boys, or were you the tomboy, or the girly girl with just girlfriends? Like, you know.